Welcome guys, to this week's Hog 4 webinar. We are going to be going over all things wings. So that means playback bars, virtual wings, whether or not you have an actual wing or you want to use virtual wings, pages, all that kind of stuff. Anything that has to deal with using those masters on your console. So Paul and I are gonna do this. Paul, do you have anything you want to add before we hop right in?
Nope, just happy to be with you guys for another installment, and yeah, let's get into this.
Awesome. So let's get started then. I gotta get capture going real quick, but that should be fine. So like he said, we're gonna do all things wings, and to start off with, we're gonna actually start talking about playback bars. So if you have an external wing, or like a hoglet, or even on a console, like these 10 faders are always assigned to a playback bar. So the playback bar is this row right here that I'm having my mouse over. So this is your playback bar. This is what kind of indicates to you what your faders are controlling. You do have more than one playback bar, so you can open these really easily if you hold down pig, and then you hit the number that you want. So the main one, 1 through 10, for controlling masters 1 through 10, that's playback bar 0. So if you hold down pig and hit 0, you're going to toggle that playback bar on and off. And then it goes all the way through 8. So I can just keep clicking and keep getting more. You have a total of 90 masters. So you can only have playback bars 0 through 8 up. Cool. And so these are playback bars. Like I said, they are assigned to your faders. Now you can change which playback bar is actually being controlled by the faders. So like if I bring up this fader, it's going to control the main playback bar 0. So to change which one is controlling your playback bar, what we need to do is actually go and we can do it from our control panel. So hit setup and then control panel. And I have too many playback bars open right now. So I'm just going to close all of them. So you can change which ones you're controlling, but you can really only change which ones you're controlling once you have hardware attached on the Hog 4 PC. So the first thing we need to actually do is map our wing. I have a mini wing here that I'm going to map. So once you have the playback bar enabled, it's enabled by having this blue, it's highlighted in blue here. So because I opened them all, they're all enabled now. I can then go to my docking assignment and choose what I want to map. So whether it's a Hog 4 mini wing, a hoglet, a master wing, or just the regular playback wing, it'll list here in these docking assignments. So then we click on the one you want to assign. The choose keys should flash blue once you assign it. And then you have this docking behavior. We're going to leave it on leave in place for now. And then you hit dock. Once you hit dock, that means that piece of hardware is actually associated to that one playback bar. So now if I can use my mini wing here, and I can bring up the fader, and it's going to cause the lights to come on. I bring it down, and it comes down. So that's how we can very easily start mapping wings. Now, like I said, we can change which playback bar is actually docked on the console. So if we want the console, we want playback bar 1 to actually be controlled by the mini wing or whatever, or the console faders, you can actually assign your docking assignment to the same wing, but for a different playback bar. So now I have playback bar 1 here. I can choose Hog 4 mini wing, and then I can hit dock. And now if I bring up this fader, it's not controlling anything because it is docked to that first playback bar. So 11 through 20. So we would need to move a list there. List to move. And you can move things to that playback bar exactly the same way that you have been. So list to move, and then you press the choose key. It's not to. Oh, my focus is in the control panel. Move, and then you hit choose here. And once you hit choose, you get that your fader can now start controlling that cue list. So now, like I said, you can start changing your docking, and you can go back in here and change your docking assignment back to Playback Bar 1. And now we can control that first Playback Bar, or Playback Bar 0. So now we can control that Playback Bar. So that really allows you to utilize these Playback Bars just on this page right here. So just on this set of, with these same masters that you have. So you can actually expand your masters without even getting more hardware if you can't for some reason. There is a keyboard shortcut to change your docking. So if I needed to quickly change from my docking from Playback Bar 0 to Playback Bar 1, you can hold down the middle choose button on your console, or the main choose button. It'll be that one right above Assert. And then you hit the number that corresponds to that Playback Bar. So if I want to go to Playback Bar 1, I hold down choose, and then I hit 1, and now we're docked again. So if I change this guy, I'm changing that first fader cue list. And then if I want to go back, I just hold down choose, I hit 0, and now I'm back to having the Playback Bar 0 being docked. Now there is this docking behavior that I left as leave in place. What this docking behavior allows us to do is change which Playback Bar is actually being controlled at that moment. Not being controlled. Change which Playback Bar is right above those faders. So I'm going to change these to move to bottom and then hit apply. And what we'll see is when I change my docking to Playback Bar 1, we'll see them swap places. Kind of swap places. It's a little bit wonky on Hog4 PC because it goes to the very bottom underneath the soft keys. But it changes which one's actually at the bottom. And then I'll enable this Playback Bar 2 again as well here. So when I hold down choose and hit 2, we'll see these go to the bottom. Choose 0. And it's just changing which one is actually at the bottom and would be, if you're on a 2-screen console, which ones would be right above those faders. So choose and then 1 again, and we can just keep changing which one's at the bottom. I like this option because I know a lot of us are quite used to whatever you're controlling on those masters are right above the faders. Well, great. So having the move to bottom option there, then it's still the same, you still have that same muscle memory of just looking right above those faders. And you can see exactly what you're controlling at that point in time. Another quick way to get into docking, if you can't remember the keyboard shortcut, if you take your mouse and you right click over a Playback Bar, there's this option called Toggle Dock Indicator. So when you hit that option, then you get a dock button that you can hit itself. So you can hit dock here, and you can actually dock via that button instead. So now we can switch which one's docked just by clicking those buttons. Any questions about docking before I talk about one other way to change your dock?
No, not seen anything yet.
Cool.
Of course, every time I say that, a question
comes
pops up.
Yeah.
Mark on the chat. Was there a shortcut with choose?
So it's choose and then the playback and then the number of playback that you want to dock. So if I hold down choose and hit 1, now Playback Bar 1 is docked. Choose and then 0 brings back that Playback Bar 0. So that's the shortcut to get things docked. So you don't have to have that dock indicator there. And then also so sometimes that's a lot more useful on like a Roadhog if you don't have an external mouse, because you can't use the pig set function on this on the Playback Bars. So that holding down choose and hitting that number allows you to do that easily.
Are you docking to the main faders if you have a set of faders and a wing? What will the dock button do?
So like if I have like basically a wing and then like a console connected.
Yes, I think so.
And then I switch between the two. It'll swap which one's being controlling at that point in time. So I actually haven't tried that, and I don't have 2 wings here. Should have tried that beforehand. But you can only have 1 docking assignment per playback bar. So I'm going to say it probably takes away the docking assignment from the other wing or console. So if I were to change my docking assignment here, I think that answers the question.
It does.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think it just takes away that assignment. One other way you can change your docking assignment is actually as a Comet macro, which is really useful. So I'm going to go into my scene directory. I'm just going to record an empty scene real quick and label it dock playback bar 0. And then we'll go into here and apply a macro. So there's a Comet macro to change which playback bar you're actually going to dock. So I can type in, I can go here, dock playback bar 0, enter, and now when I go that scene, where'd scenes go again? There it goes. And now when I go that scene, it's going to change that docking behavior also. So you can very easily have this be a Comet macro if you need to, especially if you're dealing in like a concert setting where you need specific faders to be, specific playback bars to be docked on a certain song. Then you can assign that into a Comet macro onto that cue list. So as soon as you hit go on that cue list on that Q1, it automatically docks the proper playback bar for you. Or when you change pages, which we'll talk about in a sec.
Hey, Megan, real quick, how did you get the dock button on the left again?
Yeah, so you right click on the playback bar, and then there's an option for toggle dock indicator. So when you hit toggle dock indicator, it'll turn that dock button on or off. And mine's grayed out there because my assignment got taken away. So you got to make sure also to get that docking button turned on to enabled, you have to make sure you have a wing or console front panel actually assigned to that to that playback bar. If it's not assigned, it'll be disabled and grayed out. On Hog4 PC, you have to have some kind of hardware in order to use this docking feature. So without some kind of wing or hoglet attached to it, you won't be able to utilize the docking feature. Cool. I'm gonna hide that second playback. That playback bar too. So like I said, with Hog4 PC, you don't actually get that docking feature, but something that might be useful instead of utilizing that docking feature would be like a virtual wing, especially if you don't have the wing hardware, but you still need access to the other playback bar. So like I still want access to playback bar 1. You can actually open virtual wings. So there's a couple different ways you can open them. If you hold down open at the bottom of your screen, you'll get the virtual wing button, and you can just open it that way. So each virtual wing window represents a whole playback bar. You have faders. You can assign what playback bar you want it to control. You have your flash keys, plays, pause, backs, just as if you had like a real wing in front of you. It's just built into Hog4. It's just on screen instead of next to you as like actual hardware. So if I wanted my virtual wing to control playback bar 1, I can just hit that arrow up, and now we have playback bar 1 controlled here. And now we can bring it up and bring it down, while playback bar 0 controls what I need it to control. What's also nifty about the virtual wing window that I really like is that you can actually turn off what you want to show here. So like maybe I don't need like the pause button all the time here. So when I hit the options button, we can actually say what we want to show and say what we don't want to show. So we can turn off play controls, for example, here. And now we don't have any play buttons. Same thing for play, pause, back. So now it's literally just the faders and the flash keys. This can be useful. I've used the virtual wing window as like a status bar before to see what all the cue lists that I want, what all the cue lists are on that playback bar, just what their current state is if I wanted to. So then I would even turn off all of these and only see what's on that bar. And of course you can resize the window so we can make it smaller, and we could make a copy of this window so that we could open up another virtual playback bar if we wanted to. So it's possible to just have a huge screen just filled with playback bars, or to just have 2 playback bars on top of each other if you wanted to, or 2 virtual wings on top of each other if you wanted to. We can just... the wings themselves don't scale though, so we won't be able to see anything in here. I mean, we won't be able to see anything in here, but we won't be able to change the size of the faders or the play or the pause buttons. So this is just another way you can expand your master control if you needed to, if you couldn't utilize the docking feature, or maybe you just need another set of faders just on screen for you to control. This is when a nice external touch screen is really useful on your console setup.
Hey Megan.
Yeah.
Are those configuration options saved per view?
They should be. Yes, they are. They are saved per view. Because 14 has nothing, has just the plays and the flashes. 15 has everything in it. So yes, they are.
So in one view, I can see the status only perhaps, and in another view, the playback buttons. Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
cool.
So I could have my 14 just be this if I wanted it to be. Whoops. I'll re-record this. And then 15 brings it all back to where I have full control over the whole thing. For example. So you can change on a view basis what exactly you want to see on those buttons. Any other questions about docking and virtual wings?
That was the last question that I saw.
Okay.
Give it a second, maybe. I think we're good.
All right, awesome. Great. So that's docking virtual wings. Now I wanted to kind of talk about pages, just because pages influence what you are actually able to control at that point in time. So pages are what kind of holds, is the structure of what holds together what's actually assigned to your masters. And this applies to all your playback bars. So from playback bar 0 to 8, if you change your page, you change exactly what's on all of those playback bars. So if I go from page 1 here, I go to page 2. So to make a new page or to navigate to a page, you can just hit the page button and the number you want to go to, and then enter, and it's going to take you to that new page. We can see that nothing is actually on my faders now. So that page is empty. There is a page directory that you can open and see what pages you have open, what pages you're using, and what pages have been created. So if you just click and hold and get to pages that way, you can see all the pages that are made. Now, because guard is turned on, when I click on a page, I can't navigate to that page. So when I turn off guard, though, I can start changing what page I'm actually on. When you change pages, it's going to affect, again, what faders, what your main playback, so playback bars 0 through master 0 through 10, and then it'll change all playback bars at the same time. So if you have a wing attached and you're controlling playback bar 0 on your main console faders and then playback bar 1 on another console, on your other wing, when you hit next page, it's going to change on both pages. It's going to change on both devices. So just be aware when you change pages, that's what's going to happen. So with guard turned off, you can also make new pages just by clicking. It'll start making new pages all day long for you. And when you want to navigate pages, we talked about being able to click on the pages that already exist in the page directory. Or you can also hit next page and back page on the front panel. So once the page exists, that's when those next page and back page buttons are able to actually work on the front panel of either the console or the wing. Without pages already existing, there's nothing to next and back through, so you have to have these pages that already exist. Now, there's a couple different options here in the page directory that can make your life super useful. So if I want my main playback or masters 0 through 10 to always be what they are right now on each page, that's what this set current pages template can do. Every time you make a new page now, whatever's assigned to your masters on this page will appear on all those pages that you make. So when I click that button, it's going to turn blue because it's a template page, so everything is blue. And we can also see this page as a template because it has that little T there. So now when I hit next page, those lists still exist on the following pages because they're on that template page. And when you fire from that fire on a different page, it's the exact same as if you had done it on the template page. They're just all referenced at this point. So this is really useful if you have like house lights that you always want on your faders, or if you want, or if you have like fogger that always has to be controlled no matter what, you always need it. Instead of having to remember to move that to each page that you make, you can also, instead of having to remember to move that to each page that you make, just put it on a template page, and now anytime you make a new page, it's always there. Cool. So that's how template pages work, is to take it that way. Another reason why you might want to use a template page is if you want your main wing to always be like your house lights. It always has these set of cue lists and scenes and batches on it, and you never want it to change. Great. Then put that playback bar exactly how you like it. Leave the other playback bar empty, and hit set current pages template. That way, whenever you change pages, your wing is always set up exactly the same way. Which is another good time that a good thing is using your template page.
Paul has an interesting question and a terrible story. On your wings, can you disable the next page button? I don't think that you can.
You cannot disable your next page button, but I'm guessing that's happening because when you change pages, everything gets released when you go to the next page.
Yeah, he had a fan in a show reach over and hit that one key, and well, let's say things got ugly.
I'm sure. So like when I hit next page right now, my lights just got released, and if I go back, they don't come back. There's a couple things you can do to mitigate this, these. One of them is being that you just don't enable that activity to where it doesn't release. So in preferences, when you get to preferences, I'm going to max this and then go into miscellaneous. You can actually change your page change action. So right now it's set to release all, which is why whenever I have this cue list going and I hit next page, it releases because this page change action is release all. So if you change that to hold over if active, then what's going to happen is when I'm back, I hit go. My lights are going. When I hit next page, it should... I didn't hit apply. Go when I hit next page, it stays on. And you can see here on the playback bar, it has this little thumbtack, meaning that it's held over from a previous page. So that way, when you hit next page, your lights don't turn off, and you can still kind of control exactly what you're seeing. Now, when you hit release, it's going to, I have to choose first, release. And once it's released, it'll go away because it's no longer active, so it's no longer able to stay on that page because of this holdover if active is on. You also have a leave-in background option here. And what the leave-in background works very similar to holdover if active. But when I hit next page, they still stay on. But the first fader does not show what was carried over. It does not show what's still active. Because it's just left on in the background. So if you have anything going in the background, you just don't see it carrying over to this next page. So those are the two options that you could change to actually mitigate that. That way, if you accidentally get someone hitting next page, then it's not going to completely ruin your show, depending on how your pages are set up, of course. So I'm going to go back to release all real quick. And then we're going to go back page. Another way, and this doesn't really help on the accidental next page, but if I know I need to carry this cue list to my next page, I can also hold down the choose button on this fader. And when I hold down the choose button for that fader, I promise I'm just doing the keyboard shortcut for it. When I hit next page, what's going on? When I hit next page, it carries over the next page automatically for me. So I get that thumbtack just if I had hold over if active selected. So holding down choose and hitting next page at the same time, or you could hit back page, will automatically carry this cue list over for you as well. That one, it's just making you be deliberate about it. Just know by default, your page change action is release all. And depending on the show, you might want to change that into holdover on active or leave in background. I know a lot of people like the leave in background option.
Hey, Megan, going back to templates.
Yep.
Is there a way to designate at the start of a template that certain faders do not become a part of the template? That was a question asked, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the only way to avoid that is, effectively storing another cue list on top of the template master.
Yeah, so you can override what's on a template, but you can't, when you make a template, you can't decide what doesn't go in the template. It just takes everything that's currently on that page as the template. But you can, like if I'm on page 2 and I don't need list 2 on that playback bar, I can move like a scene there if I needed to on top already, and it automatically put that scene there. So you can override a templated object if you need to on that master. So that might be something you want to make sure of on your template page. It doesn't have anything extra that you don't need, because you can't say to exclude this master from the template page.
With the leave in background option, is there a way to release the active cue without having to do a pig release?
Yeah, so there's actually a couple different, so you could go into you could go navigate back to the page that has it on. So we could always go back, hit back page or next page and go find what it is. You can also go into the list directory. If you're inside the list directory, you can release from the list directory. So in the cue list options here, if I turn off guard, cue list 1 is going, you can always hold down release. And when you hit, that doesn't help because it's the same, the master's already chosen. So when I hit release, you want to click on the cue list and then hit release at the same time. And then that'll release that list. And you can see which list is running if you go into spreadsheet view, because it'll tell you here what the current queue is. Is there another easier way to do that? I'm trying to think if there's another way to release your lists. And if you know one, Paul, feel free to chime in. Because I know list release. So, and then list release won't work because it's assigned to a master. So those are your couple different options that you have for releasing your lists whenever it's set into leave-in background. You either have to go find it or release it from the keylist directory.
Paul in the chat is saying list 1 release enter. List number release enter. I don't never tried that.
Release doesn't go into the command line.
I didn't think so.
Yeah, so that unfortunately won't work. Because release is one of those that's always set up to, when you hit release, it's going to try to release whatever is on the chosen master. Which is why you have to actually click and hold on the list first. And then you're able to hit release to actually release it out. Yeah. So release, and I believe assert doesn't go into the... Yeah, those two buttons don't go into the command line. All right. Any other questions about the template page stuff before we...
Let's see, Mark. Oh, he meant list by list or scene by scene.
Like to release...
Oh, sorry. So, okay.
To not become part of the template?
Right.
You cannot exclude a certain list or scene from a template page.
Oh, sorry. That was a follow up. So, can you change the page? Can you change the page change options on a fader by fader or queue by queue, or what he meant list by list or scene by scene? I don't.
No.
Think so.
No, you cannot. The page change options are set on a per user basis, and I would actually say that's actually on a per show basis, not a per user basis. So that's set on a per show basis. So when you hit next page, it's just going to be based on what it is on that page. If you need to carry something over, you can hold down multiple choose keys at the same time. I know what's going on because it's at the very bottom. That's what's going on. So when I hold down the choose key on all three, let me get them going first. Play. Whoops. Cool. So when I hold down the choose key on all three of these guys and I hit next page, it can carry them all over to the next page. And it doesn't help because there's a template page. These settings are all great until they all stomp over each other. Cool. So they're all three going. I hold down the choose key on all three. I can hit next page, and now they're all three carried at the same point. So you can hold down multiple choose keys at one time, and then be able to carry those over if you need to at that certain point in time.
How does fader values carry over when going from one page to the next or changing docking assignments?
So we can actually kind of see that right now. If I go, I'm going to carry over one of these real quick to my next page. We can see that there is a virtual bar here showing the intensity level, and that red line right here is actually where that hardware level actually is. So as I bring up this fader on my mini wing, we see that go away because I now caught it. But if I bring it down, so now it's like 67%. If I change my page back to my previous page, how I did this. So you get that virtual bar here. So because the fader in theory is down right now because it's a virtual fader. Also, that I would have to get this level back, I have to go and capture it then. So I just move it and I'm able to capture it again. So the console stores where the level was before. And then you have to go and move hardware wise exactly where it is. So we can, And if I change my dock here and go back, we can see that my faders still stored at full or at 43%, even though my hardware faders are technically at something different. So I need to move up my first fader all the way up to catch it so it listens back into what I have here on my hardware. So you can always see where it is. What's currently stored is the blue value, and the red line is where that fader is hardware-wise for you to go back to and change. Yeah. All right. I am going to keep going a bit. If you need to turn off that template page, you just hit no template and that's turning it off. There's also this nifty feature called capture activity. And what capture activity is going to do is it's going to record Comet macros, basically, saying what queue list is going, what queue is it going on, and then and then get the fader level exact where you had it before. That way, when you navigate off this page and then come back to it, it gets stored at that level. So as soon as you come back, it goes that queue list, it goes the faders exactly where it needs to, and that kind of thing. And when I say queue list, I also mean scenes or batches, whatever playback objects or inhibited masters you actually have on these pages are taken back to it. So I'm gonna just play a little bit here. Cool. So we have some faders up. Cues are in certain positions, stuff like that. Some faders are down, all that fun stuff. I'm going to hit capture activity. So when I hit capture activity, we can see there's a little R there, meaning that it stored these macros. It's stored exactly like it looks. And nothing is hidden. You can go and see exactly what the macros are by going into the spreadsheet view. And in that macros column, you can see exactly what faders are going, what cues are going, and then where to fade the masters at the same time. So now if I go to my next page, and then I go back a page, we'll get the cue list and the scenes and everything that was currently going on that page to those proper levels. And same thing for the fader levels as well here. And if my faders end up changing, so like I'm going to bring all my faders down on the hardware, and I go back a page now, we'll see that they still act as normal, and because it just brought those values up virtually. So that capture activity is also another thing that could possibly help you out of that situation where you accidentally hit next page, or you just want to restore the look after you've hit capture activity. Great, this is exactly what it'll do. It'll restore the look exactly like you see it with whatever's on that page at that point in time.
In capture activity, will it reference the actual list or scene and follow the activity if you move them, if you move some faders around?
I don't believe so, because the Comet macro given is a fade master or go master. So it's not actually referencing the list. It's referencing the master itself. So I believe if I move...
yeah, that makes sense if the Comet macros are referencing the masters and not the list numbers or scene numbers.
Yeah, so the macros are... So you can... And like I said, you can see exactly here. It says Go Master 1, Q1. Go Master 2, Q1. Go Master 3, Q1. That's what the slash is saying. What Q on that master are we going? And then the fade master is saying what master are we fading? And then to what level are we fading it to? You could also even add in extra if you needed to here. So maybe you also wanted to change your docking of your playback bar when you change your page. Great. So we can have that set up here. So we added in docking playback bar 1. So now if I go to my next page, great, and now I go back a page, Playback Bar 1 is now docked at the same time that I went back a page, and my look is still restored exactly like I had it before. So these Comet macros, they're not set in stone. You can go and edit them if you need to at the same time as well. And that is all within this spreadsheet view icon. Most directories have this spreadsheet view icon. So if you click on it, you might find some other options that you didn't see before. You can also rename pages. Just a little bit about options here. You can rename pages if you need to. So I can hold down set and click on that and then name it, I don't know, main, if I wanted to. And that way you can also see in your playback bar what page you're currently on. So you're on main page, and I hit next, I'm on page 2 now. And it'll just tell you what page you're actually on. And it also tells you in your next to your command line and your status line here that you're on page 4. So it just helps to keep you organized as to what you're on. You can also give pages colors if you need to. So we could outline this in red. It's only shown inside the page directory, so just giving your page colors can help if you navigate within the page directory. You can also hit the checkbox and do the color code entire options button if you needed to as well. If you want to turn off if you want to turn off capture activity, all you have to do is go to that page and hit toggle current page activity, and it turns it off. So now when I hit next page, it'll all be released. Now if I go back a page, it's going to come back. I mean, it won't come back. I hit go on a list. That's what happened. And then you have clear current page, which is the exact same thing as holding down delete and hitting choose on all your faders. It just is going to empty out that page, which is undoable if you accidentally hit that button. Any other questions about pages?
Not seeing any new ones yet. Wait. Of course. You can hit go to page 12. Is that a question, Paul?
So yeah, you can navigate via the command line if you need to. So if you'd rather, instead of having to hit page 12, next page 12 times since I'm on page 1, we can just hit page 12, enter, and it goes to page 12. You don't hit go to, because go to is to navigate inside the chosen master queue list, or the queue list on the chosen master, but you can just hit page, the number you want, enter, and it'll navigate you there. On pages, you can also put in so since I'm on page 12, that's perfect. You can also put in groups. We kind of talked a little bit about this, I believe in the last one maybe, where we talked about inhibitive masters. So I could move my groups to my masters here, and have a playback bar. And I don't usually use this for pages. I would mainly use it for like on my extra playback bar, and this should probably be part of my template page instead. So if I need to, in this case, I'm going to Alt-1, delete. I'm just going to clean up that playback bar. Nope, it doesn't want to get cleaned up. That's fine. I'm going to turn off Alt-1. Now I should be able to. Okay. Holding down delete and this is where move to bottom on Hog4 PC is not the best option. So now I can move list 1 back over. Cool. So now I can on here just move those groups like I was talking about. All dimmer. And now if I set this up as my template page, they're always going to be there. But if I have my main playback bar dot and I hide that top playback, no one will ever know that I am limiting my output on there. So if I turn off my playback bar 1, so that's done, I can go to my next page. And then I can bring up some faders to get them going. And now since I have those group masters on playback bar 1, I can choose 1. Now my faders are mapped to that playback bar 1, but notice I don't see it because it's hidden. So now if I bring down fader 1, I can start. I'm going to open that back up though so I can make sure I'm doing the right thing. Yeah, I can start bringing down, or fader 2, I can start bringing down the solo washes and start changing my intensity on the solo washes without them being there. So if I hide it again, we can see it back. So now it's a little bit of, you can set those levels, and if people don't really know about those levels, then you don't have to show them. And then you can go back to docking as normal. So now I'm back to, I can go back to my main playback bar being docked, and now my faders, those solo washes, are never going to go higher than what I set before on that top playback bar. So that's another way you could utilize your group masters with your pages, and then they just stay on there as well. So they're hidden on a playback bar, and you always have them accessible because they're on that template page. So even though I'm on page 9, I can open up that playback bar, pig 1, and there they are right here. Cool. Any other? Give us all the questions, guys, over docking and wings and playback and pages and utilizing playbacks and stuff like that. I'll keep throwing in tips here and there, though, until we get questions. So inside pages, going back to Comet macros, you can also, with certain Comet macros, specify that you just recall a view at the same time. So maybe your page 2 would be a song 2, if you're talking about like a band. And then you also then recall that specific view at the same time. So when you go page 2, you can recall a certain view. I believe it's RV. There it is, recall view. We can say recall view 14. So now, when I navigate to page 2, I can... What happened? Well, I probably didn't save it right. Recall that view. Next page, back page. That should have... It should have recalled. I don't know. All these Comet macros should work together. So going to page 2 should have recalled that view. But you can add... there are Comet macros in here that should just work with the page directory. And I'm going to mark that as something I have to look into as to why that's not working.
A little quieter today.
Yeah, we usually get a bit more questions with this. And we can actually ask any question. It doesn't even have to pertain to pages at this point or weeks. I kind of have what I've...
Whoop.
Yeah.
Let's see. Is it view 2 or 12 you were seeking?
I was looking for view 14, right, just like that. Navigating on page 2 to view 15 at this point. But oh, because I don't have capture activity on. So you also need restore activity to be yes. There we go. That should do it now. Next page. No, we're not. I thought that was right. No, I did not do it. That I have it marked as something to bring up to our team about. Oh, yes, it did. Here it is. Here's the programmer. I lied. It's doing it now. So when you're making up macros and you're not using the capture activity button, make sure that you change this restore activity from no to yes. That way it actually fires the Comet macro. Here we go. Next page. There we go. So that was my issue. Is that there always has to be, if you want to fire this Comet macro, you have to make sure that you have restore activity set to yes. If it's not set to yes, it won't fire that activity. So since it's set to no, it's not recalling that view 15.
Does that apply to all Comet macros, like when fired from a queue?
No, Comet macros fired from a queue always work. So we could assign the Comet macro here to recall view 15. And now when I go that fader, it's going to automatically recall because that queue is going. It's pages that are the special one in that case. Just because with pages, you could, when you change page, you could mess up your show state. Just like when you change page automatically, you could, without changing that option in the preferences, you can mess up your show state by releasing all your queue lists. We put in that failsafe for you. So there's no, it doesn't apply to everything. It only applies to pages. And just a little tidbit about why guard is usually turned on. Guard is turned on by default in those directories, like queue lists, scene directories, your page directory, because when you do that, if you were to tap on one of those items in there with guard turned off, you could really mess up your show file. So we make you do an action before actually selecting one of those items. Or not even just show file, you could really mess up the output and put everyone in dark on accident at that point in time. Making sure that I covered everything that I wanted to cover here. Remember, this dock indicator can't be gotten on a PC, on a console without having the ability to right click. You have to right click to get that dock indicator. So on a Roadhog or a Hedgehog, that means plugging in a mouse of some sort or a trackball. And then you'll be able to get that option. There's also a header option here, which is kind of nifty to know, like especially if you don't know where things are docked or if you're only dealing with one screen. You can actually have that header on, and it tells you what playback bar it's assigned to, or it is, and what wing it's assigned to. And if it's docked, then it's not grayed out. That information's not grayed out. So Playback Bar 1 is currently docked, and we know because it's all white. If we hit dock again, it goes into this gray color here. So that's also a nifty header if you're trying to find out information as to, hey, why is my Playback Bar not working? Like, I thought I docked it. Well, you can always right click on it, hit toggle header, and you can see exactly like where it's assigned to and all that kind of stuff here, which is really nice.
Mark asked for the restore activity. Is it restoring wherever you were when you left the page?
It's whatever it's set to when you hit the button, capture activity. So, on here, I can say I have these set to specific levels. I hit capture activity, so it's just going to fade master 11 to 0. When I hit next page and back a page, it's setting that same fade master 11 to 0. It doesn't matter that if I have fade master 11 set to full right now and I hit next page, it's still, when I go back, that master 11 goes all the way to 0 again. Just, it's wherever it is when you hit that button specifically. And it's that capture activity button.
Can you show the preferences in times to change page info?
Yeah. So to go into preferences, setup preferences, and then under the miscellaneous tab, there's the page change action. And that's where you say whether or not you want to release all. So when you change pages, everything gets released. Holdover if active, where if you have a cue list going, you hit next page, that's carried over to the next page with a little thumbtack. Or leave in background, where when you hit next page, it stays on, but it doesn't get carried over to the next page. It just automatically stays on. There's a couple other options here to remember intensity values and scale values also. So if you want those faders to remember their intensity values at the same time, because right now it's just set to also remember whatever the fader is set to. So remember, those don't have to be intensity values. Then that's when you also want to check this box to remember intensity values.
All right. Stefan asks, can you go over the proper power-up procedure with wings in a show file so that they always dock with the show that is with the correct docking info on the wing? I feel like I have to drag over the dock labels and recalibrate when I boot up. Or just maybe talk about that a little.
Yeah, so you want to make sure that your displays, because I know Stefan set up, he's using like a master wing or a playback wing with like the screens itself set up, with the screens attached to the wings. When you plug those in, you want to make sure they're always plugged into the right place. So in your displays setting, control panel, displays, you want to make sure that you have like wing 1 is always going to port 1 on the back of your console. Wing 2 is always going to port 2 on the back of your console. So you always want to make sure that is in the right place. Gaff tape and labeling does wonders for that to make sure I'm always correct going from place to place. And then on top, so that's the main thing. And then just to be safe, again, also make sure your USBs are plugged into the right place. I don't think that matters as much, but as consistent as possible is always good. Usually it's just your which monitors are you actually assigned to at that point. If you're dealing with Hog4 PC, the wings, I believe the wing headers, like the playback bars, always defaults to the main playback bar always defaults to the main screen. The other playback bars can automatically populate on the other display if you need to in Hog4 PC. Yeah, it always like since I'm running a nano mode with one display here, one Hog4 display. This main playback bar 0, if I was to enable the other display and drag it over, it would not hold onto that other display between log off and log ons. So that would be the first thing. Make sure that everything's plugged into the same way before you power on. And then it should go from there because wings are stored on a per console basis, not on a per show basis. So anything inside the control panel is always on a per console basis. So when you change a docking assignment, that changes it for the whole console, not just this one show file that we're in. Hopefully that helps with of making sure things line up consistently.
Stefan says thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Let's see, Michael up in the chat. If I want to use my playback fader, with not to start at tap the play buttons first. If I only have house lights on a fader with one cue list.
So you want it set like this, Michael, where I just bring up the fader and it turns on, I'm guessing. So I bring it down, it releases, turn it on, it turns off.
Yes, that's exactly what he's asking.
So inside the settings, you can go into your standard tab or whatever tab you want to use this for your master control sets. There is this option here that says I fader, go off 0, release at 0. Make sure those are checked. And that way, when you bring down your fader, it releases, and when you bring it up, it goes the first cue, and it's controlling intensity at the same time. You could also do this slightly different, where I'm going to release real quick. You'd also set the fader to just be an HD. So there's a couple different ways to do this. The way that I like to do it, especially if there's position inside that cue list, is the way that I just said, where you go into your options and you check these boxes, go off 0, release at 0. But you can also make the cue list a HTP fader, and when you make it HTP, then the intensity is controlled by the fader. So it kind of acts similar, but you don't have the other options here of you don't have. But now because it's HTP, I don't believe I can. No, yeah. So you can also do the HTP way as well, which is really helpful for house lights, foggers, stuff like that you don't want to ever be like released, because when I hit release, that intensity does not go away at that point. So HTP faders cannot be released. So because I hit release, it released the position information, but it didn't release the intensity information. HTP also only controls intensity, which is why when I said at the beginning, if I have position or any other type of parameter inside that fader or inside that cue list, that's when I like to just say go off 0, release at 0. But HTP is another way around this.
While you're in this master options, what's the functionality of last option main?
We can change how these main buttons from the choose to the big play key act when this is the chosen master. I never touch these on a per cue list basis. If I'm going to touch these, I do it on a global basis inside my preferences window. Mainly because I don't want to have to think, oh, did I adjust this back button to actually be a go button for cue list 1? So now when I hit the pause button here, it acts the exact same as the go button on the fader. It's as the big go button. So you can actually change what these buttons do if you need to. Same with assert or release. Some people like to change assert instead of having the actual assert button. You have it as like a go-to button, and you can say go to Q5, for example. That way it's always, or Q9. That way it's always, anytime you hit assert, you just always go to that Q and that Q9, and you can get out of jail if you need to at that point. But like I said, I don't usually do this on a per cue list basis. I do it on the global basis inside the preferences window. Underneath cue list, you have these same options here for main as well.
Do you need to use the enter button if assert is functioning as go-to?
I don't believe so. I believe it just acts as a normal go-to. Let's see. I think I just went through and cleaned up all my lists, but let's do this real quick. We can make a quick cue list that does this. And I don't believe you do. I think that's the whole point, is that it's just a quick shortcut. So 1 through turn off guard, 1 through 9 at 100. Red, record, choose. Master 10, great, green, record, enter. Blue, record, enter. Green, record, enter. One more, record, enter. Great. So those have been recorded. Bring my fader up. Cool. So we go. So let's get into those settings real quick. Underneath me, the shortcut I'm using to get into those settings is you hold down pig and you tap the choose button on that fader, and it'll automatically take you into those cue list options. You don't actually have to open the cue list and hit options. Go to 9. Let's just go to 2. So once it's set to go to 2, if I hit assert, yeah, it'll just take you to Q2 whenever you hit assert. You don't have to hit enter. Another option you could do on there instead is maybe you don't know what queue you always want to go to. You could have the go to command line. So now when you hit assert, it's the same thing as hitting the go to button itself. So now I can say go to 1 at this point. And now it's going to go to Q1. I can hit assert, go to 5. Or I don't have a Q5. Go to 4. It'll go to Q4. So that's another option if you wanted to. Is instead of go to and you have to specify each time, you can have a go to command line option and you specify the number and then hit enter. But that is the same thing as hitting the go to button on your console then.
Let's see, Kevin, I may have missed it. Is it possible to change the view of an extra playback bank when changing pages? I'd like to see 2 playback banks on one page, then close down to 1 playback bank on the next page.
You cannot. So I don't believe these are not stored in views. But I will try. But from the last time I did this, you cannot. So I'm gonna record that as view 1. And then record that as view 2. And I'm pretty sure they're not going to go away. No, you can't. So your playback bars always stay the same. You can achieve this, kind of-ish, by using, we did it kind of here with the view 14s and 15, where you change what playback bar is currently shown up here. So you could, in theory, I like seeing what I'm controlling, so this isn't something that I do. But I could turn off my main playbacks here, 0, 2, 1, 0 again, and just have it all shown via the virtual playback window, I guess, if you really wanted to. So I could have this be playback bar 1 and 0. You can go and turn them all off if you wanted to. I'm gonna do this a little bit differently. And then I can hit copy. So this can be recorded as this view here. And then I can make another copy. Playback bar 1 here. Record that as view 18. So now when I go to view 1, I only see 1. I go to view 18, I see both. And then I'm hiding that main playback. Now, but when you click and hold, you don't get all the same options as if they were on the true playback bar. So it's a little bit hacky at this point, but it is an option that you could do if you really wanted to hide and show based on what you wanted to do, based on what you wanted on each thing. But again, this also then takes up the space on your touchscreen, which I'm guessing is what you were trying to maximize.
Would a macro help?
You could macro it, I guess. You could macro the pig 0, pig 1 through 9 options. And that way it shows and hides, and then you can go that keystroke macro in a Comet macro when you change pages. So yeah, you could do that way as well. I feel like that macro session would be really nice. I get with how many people ask if macros can do this and that.
Yeah. Let's see. Is touch sense utilized in Hog 4?
I don't know. I'm guessing that's some kind of API for developing stuff. I don't know, to be honest. I don't know.
I don't know that. I don't know the answer to that question. I don't think so.
Yeah, I'd say I don't think so either.
Because there's no. I mean, if it is what, yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, and Google's not giving me anything for what touch sense actually is. I don't know if I typed it right though. But I would I don't know. I'll be honest.
Oh, does if the fader knows when you touch them? Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yes, it does. I'm sorry. Yeah, so as soon as I go to touch my fader, it knows that I've started touching and controlling it. I think you can see that more if I... Yes, but yes, it does utilize touch sense then. I'm going to go and adjust these to be back to a little bit normal. That's a bit easier.
There is no triple tap to pig choose the fader?
No.
No.
What are you trying to achieve to triple with pig choose? Because pig choose will always open up your options, and it's whatever options you left. I believe it's whatever options you left off with. Yeah. So pig choose. So pig in your choose key opens up the cue list options or scene options, whatever the options are for that playback object on that fader. That's what it opens up.
Stefan's just making sure he's not missing anything.
Nope.
Smiley face.
Okay. And usually, if we're gonna, so triple tap instead of pig choose. I get it. Because if you double tap, then you get your cue list window itself. Yeah.
Okay. So far, I think that catches us up.
Great.
In terms of questions right now in the chat.
Awesome. Then we can wait a couple more minutes and see if anything comes in. I mean, we're kind of just open for questions right now. I'm kind of done spilling all my knowledge about wings and pages and stuff, unless you guys have questions and can make me think of something else. The next video is the next webinar is going to be all about commands and kind keys, so that'll be fun of like what we can move over there, how we can control, which kind of ties back into pages and views and all that fun stuff that we've already made and covered.
Jason says this was very helpful. Thanks.
Awesome. Great. I'm so glad. I like being helpful. Let's see. I'm trying to make sure I also covered what I needed to cover. Great. I think then that probably is going to wrap it up, guys. If
you guys get an early release today.
Yeah.
From class.
Enjoy your Thursday.
Seeing if anyone else kind of chimes in with anything while give it a few minutes or give it a minute.
Yeah. We can give a little bit more time. Thanks, Alice Cooper.
I don't get it.
Didn't they sing "School's Out"?
Oh yeah.
The song? Did I make that up? Am I misremembering? Okay, cool. I'm right. Guitar Hero has taught me well.
Let's see. Stefan asks, are there any plans to make different wing configs, like mini wing with motorized faders? At this point, Stefan, I don't think so. Not at this point. But that doesn't mean we wouldn't be open to hearing, some ideas and suggestions. The saying is at ETC we're always innovating new and exciting products. But I don't think there's anything currently planned.
Yeah, I don't believe there is, but
Bring back the rock wing.
I know. People really love that rock wing. If you have your hands on a rock wing, it does work with Hog 4 still. It just does not work with the playback docking feature. So if you do have that rock wing in your possession, you can use it with Hog 4. You just can't use like the new docking feature that we went over, where you can change what playback bar is being controlled at that point in time.
Michael asked on an unrelated topic, if I record a gobo in a beam directory, can I get the gobo icon on the palette?
No, you cannot get it on the palette. The palette is set only for text at that point. You could, if you take like if you have a image of that gobo and you want to take the time to do this, you could make a plot with a show object in it, and when you add in that show object, you can put a shape behind it or right above it that has an image of that gobo then, and kind of, if you want to go that far at least, and add that image of that gobo into your plot window, and then you can start seeing, and then you can start it that way, have it that way.
Can't you also, in the media picker, change or input or upload your own images?
You can. So in your media picker, if you have, you can do that. I don't do it often enough to actually do it though. Set. Oops. Change. Yeah, so you can. Once you have them in here, you can go and try to find them. And you can, whoops. I didn't actually hit the button. 1 enter. Is it not? Did I get out of map set? Change. And then you can change what it's called, of course. And then once you actually solidify it, you can change your gobo to be whatever media you want it to be.
But this is not. But this is happening at the media picker level, not on the palette directory.
Yeah, exactly. This doesn't go into palettes or anything. This is just on the media picker. But this is actually really useful because I know there's a bunch of people who use custom gobos. So once you have that custom gobo image, you can drop it into your media picker, and it's a lot more useful than, like, if I dropped out this leaf and put in, like, a longhorn gobo, I could then swap that, and so when I tap on it, it's always the longhorn gobo. It's exactly what it is inside the fixture itself. And then you can go and change it back if you need to. So, because I really don't need that gobo to be the capture visualizer logo, plot, I can go back in here into my fixture window, go into my spot 2000 group, and see where it says custom here for my preview package. If you don't see that there's a preview package, it's because show details is turned off. When you turn that back on, you can double click and then choose the default again. The default has the little fixture icon next to it. And now we're back to the normal tunnel gobo if we need to. Yeah, so changing out media like that is actually really useful, especially if you're dealing with a lot of custom gobos, and you have all of the images available to do all of that.
It would be cool if we could put the images on the directory.
It would be. Yes, it would be.
My guess, I wonder if that's logged anywhere. As a feature request.
Yes, it is. I saw it.
I bet that it is.
I've seen it before. I can go put a +1 again, but I've seen it in there myself actually. Just whenever I was browsing the requests. Any other questions, guys? Again, they don't have to be you have us till 1:30. So if you want to use us for our knowledge, we are here. So something else, because you can just access your plots, like your plot info. Well, I guess that doesn't help for position. But for like color, once you've color mixed it correctly, you can you can export a plot as a display. So like if you have a plot going, you can export it as a in here there's an export display option, and that just exports as a PNG file. So you could even import that if you needed to back inside your plot, so that you could use it as an image here, like if this was a color palette instead. I see something in the chat here. So other brands like Roby, Gobos, are they in the desk or do I need to import the Gobo? If they are part of the so name brand fixtures usually have Gobo images already built in. When I say name brand, I really just mean the big guys. Paul, help me out. I can't think right now.
Yeah, some of the more dominant, fixture manufacturers are included, but it also might depend on the age of the fixture. And what also, adds into this is are the Gobo images readily available and easier for us to access?
I know that was one of my jobs as an intern one year, was to go and find Gobo images and get them cataloged correctly with the proper fixtures. And same with color slots, because when you have a color wheel, you also, inside that media picker, have the color slots available. So you have red, green, blue. These are just the color wheels inside the light. So those wheels with the actual chips of color, that's what you see here inside the media picker. You get those slotted parameters. So you can just click here and you're now changing the color wheel slot itself.
Sometimes when I'm programming and I want to look clever, I'll open a lot of instances of the media picker and resize them and have different, and then have it in store view with like various versions in one, and with each media picker tab open.
You could also, you could get fancy with it. And that way, open. And then, it's going to remember exactly which tab you had open at that point in time. Whenever I do media server programming with one of my old professors, I would just open up the media picker because like if you have an axon patched, it looks just like if you have a like a pixel map layer selected, you have all this content to select. And then I'd have my Beam directory open right next to it, and we'd just go through and pick on the media. He'd just pick the media content that he want from the media picker, and then I would record it into a palette, whatever he decided to call it at that point. That way I could just go back and get out of that palette later, because he'll use cheerleader as the name, and whereas the file name is actually like file 1234, which is very helpful.
Tyler asked if I set up a recall view for show startup, I get a countdown when loading. How can I speed up that recall view time?
The startup macros always have a countdown, but that countdown is longer if you don't have like the required nodes on the connected. So like if this show has 5 DPs and you only have 3 connected, then that countdown is going to take forever. Whereas if the show has 5 DPs and you're connected with 5 DPs, then it takes a lot shorter. So it just kind of depends on what accessories you have.
And you typically also have the option to execute now in that dialog box.
There is no way to programmably change that setting for the startup macro. It's always going to do a countdown of some sort, because it wants to wait till everything's online to actually start executing. Because if you had something that was like, hey, go this list, but the DP isn't on that list yet, then it's not going to be, then it can't find that to go. Or if you have multiple consoles connected and you have, hey, bring this fader up on console 1, but also bring this fader up on console 2, and console 2 isn't connected, then but that console 2 is still coming online, it hasn't come online yet, then it'll miss that Comet macro to bring that fader up, for example, if that makes sense. So that's why that countdown is there, to give time for the system to find all the pieces that are necessary to actually go the macro.
Can you quickly remind me of the syntax for selecting the pixel map layer and applying it to the RGB bars via the plots?
Yeah, so you select your fixtures. So it'd be like 401 through 401 through enter. You select the fixtures, you click on the plot, you press enter, and then you select the pixel map layer at full at 100% enter. And then inside your media picker, you should be good to go at that point. So it's select your fixtures, select the plot, press enter on the plot, press enter, and then select your pixel map layer at 100%, and then choose your content from your media picker. Yes, don't forget to press enter, or do the trick of just storing it into a palette. And then you just press, after you select your fixtures, you press that palette, you can just automatically go straight into the media picker. I mean, it's not straight into the media picker, straight into selecting your pixel map itself. So I could record this as an intensity and color palette. Record. Undo. Record. Color. Kind mask. I could put intensity. You'd have to include your intensity and color. And then when you record that as a palette, like I did here, then you just have to press the palette. You don't actually have to press on the plot itself inside the plot directory. So if I color 401 through enter, select the palette, 400 at 100, media picker, content. So I didn't actually have to go and select the plot at that point. I just tapped on that color palette to apply it. So there's a couple different ways you can, if you remember to make a palette, you don't have to remember to press enter. Except for that first time. Yeah.
Good. I think
Awesome.
that catches everything.
Great. Then, with that being said, thanks everyone for watching. Again,
Yes, thanks guys.
We are going to be doing our next two videos, which are what the function. So next week we're going to be covering command keys, kind keys, all that fun stuff. How to move things over, why you can't have kind and command keys on the same page, that kind of stuff. And then the week after that, we are going to be building some fixtures. So building fixtures and editing fixtures that already exist. Because I think I get that question more often than I get about actually building the fixture itself. So yeah, thanks for watching so far, and can't wait to be back next week to spill more knowledge.
Have a good weekend, guys.
Yeah, have a good time. Bye.